a regular. We're live again.
Bad Weather Fans, episode 291. Mike Paseglia, Alex Benesowitz. We are streaming live on YouTube. We're also on Alex's Twitter at Nick Central, so check us on out. We're recording this on a Friday morning at 6:04 Eastern, getting an early start on the Friday. Nets have been off since Saturday when they defeated the Pelicans. Knicks, meanwhile, coming off a victory themselves. They're 17-7. They're 2 games back of the Detroit Pistons. And the Nets have won 3 of 4 games. Playing well, to the anger of some Net fans. Some Net fans happy they're playing good basketball. But we've now played a quarter of the season, and of course, NBA trade rumors starting to heat up on the Nets side. What's going to happen with Cam Thomas, who hasn't played in about a month with his hamstring injury, and then on the Knicks side, the swirling rumors with Giannis Antetokounmpo, really even bigger than the Knicks, just all over the NBA and the impact that he'll have. But good morning, Alex. Good to see you here on Friday. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Another day in the life of a Knicks fan. You don't know which way is up, who's getting traded, who's not, but it is what it is. That's life. I mean, there are 2 games. I haven't looked at the standing this morning. There were 2 games out of the 1 seed yesterday. We as Knicks fans are good. We're chilling. You could trade for Giannis. You could not trade for Giannis. You probably will trade for Giannis. Who knows? Mike, in the Nets, you're rolling, and the kids are starting to play well, and you get Cam Thomas back, or did you get him back? I'm not sure.
No, Cam Thomas is not back. He'll be out for a couple more weeks, but I don't think he's going to ever play a game again for the Nets. There's no reason for him to be here. The team is better without him. I hate saying it out loud. I like Cam Thomas, but clearly defensively as well and offensively, they're just a more efficient team. Yeah. I mean, their net rating defensively has gone up like 13 points or down 13 points, however that works. With the lineups of Claxton, Clowney, and Michael Porter Jr., they have so much length defensively, and it's just changed the way they play. I mean, they're just a better team without him. I do think there's a market for Cam, for a team that needs a score, let's say off the bench. I think the Nets are going to get back a second-round pick, and maybe somebody they can absorb contract. Remember, the Nets are $15 million, still below the salary cap, so they can make trades however they want to, essentially, because of their cap flexibility. But I believe, Cam Thomas has played his last days in Brooklyn.
Yeah, but, that's going to look bad because, he's going to get traded. If you say, obviously, you're going to get traded for pennies on the dollar. He's not going to get traded for what he is worth as a basketball player on the floor. So you're going to trade him, and then it's going to look bad because he's going to go off somewhere, a couple nights like he does, and then, it's going to hurt.
But I don't think it can look bad. If they were with him on the court this year, they were horrible. They're worst basketball team. So I can't even get upset at it. And I don't think Net fans would rationalize it like that because of how much better Yegor Dioman has played, how much better Noah Clowney has played, the minutes that you have seen, and the development from Michael Porter Jr. without Cam. So I think he'll go somewhere and potentially have some big games and hopefully help the team he goes to, right? And become a valuable member to that team where he can then earn himself a bigger contract. But I think it's pretty clear that him and the Nets just don't make sense. He didn't play well this year. He didn't want to be here. And the Nets organization is better off without him, not because of the person that he is. I think he's a great guy. I just think for where the development and where things are going, it clearly was stunting the team. And not even just the rookies like Michael Porter Jr., Nick Claxton, all of it. So I think the Nets and him have understand that it's over. And I hope he does well. I wouldn't take it like, the Nets screwed this up. It's just not the right fit here. And if he does better somewhere else, God bless.
I mean, they didn't screw it up maybe this year, but they screwed it up over the tenure of his career. I think they screwed him up, and they screwed him a couple times. Didn't really give him an opportunity, but maybe, they know he is what he is. He's like a Lou Williams type kind of a player where he's going to go off here and there. And then sometimes, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, the deficiencies with the other stuff is just, it was obvious to me more than ever this year, where he can go in there and score 27 points, but the team is dead.
Right.
Since he's left, the Nets are, with Michael Porter Jr. in the lineup, they're 500 basketball team. Like, they're not bad. They're 6-7 without Cam when MPJ plays. Like, it's not good, but they're clearly better. And I want him to go somewhere and contribute. I would actually, I think a lot of times you see a guy leave and you're like, I don't want to see him do well. Like I legit want him to go somewhere and go bonkers and do well. It's just not the right fit here, and I've accepted that.
Right, like you're rooting for him
Absolutely.
as finally getting his chance.
Totally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with that. Just not the Knicks, unless there's a deal out there, right? Like, give me a couple more draft picks and deuce. Maybe we'll make the trade.
Yeah, right. But it would be funny because with this Giannis trade, it could connect the Knicks and the Nets again because it's going to take multiple teams to get it done. I mean, I wrote something yesterday on my Twitter page, X page at Knicks Central, about Giannis and how it feels that it's inevitable. It's just gonna happen because the Bulls don't want him for some reason. There's other big market teams that he would probably play for that are not interested or can't get him. So and why would he want to? He doesn't want to go there. And he's mentioned several times he wants to go to the Knicks. They when it's right in front of you in NBA rumors, you have to believe it. You know what I mean? We, a lot of times, as a Nets fan, you did this, and I just, from talking to you and getting into the Nets side of things, doing this podcast, Kevin Durant wanted out, and so did Kyrie Irving after a certain amount of time, and it was just kind of like, oh, well, they're showing up, they're playing, whatever, maybe they're going to, pull it together, and it's like, no, they said they wanted out. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. Giannis said he wanted the Knicks. The Knicks and the Bucks did exclusively negotiate for 2 weeks over the summer. That happened. They didn't exclusively negotiate with the Knicks and then exclusively negotiate with the Bulls, then with the Thunder, then with this team, then with that team. Like, no, it was just the Knicks. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if, in my opinion. I don't know why all this is going on, but, maybe he just really wants New York. And, a couple years ago, when we first started this podcast, when the Knicks started doing well, it was the COVID season and the fans were dancing in the streets and it was legitimate. Like Triple M had the video posted of after the Knicks hit 500, they were dancing in the streets, and that started a trend of people doing it like BS, like how it is now, where it's kind of like phony and fugazi, unless it's a big win. But obviously, people are still out there when they lose a big playoff game. It's just gotten to a point where it's just for clout, right? But anyway, we've said on this podcast, so I said, you said, I don't know if you agreed with me, but I definitely said it, that players around the NBA are going to see this, and they're going to see the fans out there, and it's going to make New York a destination for players to want to come here because the Knicks have been a sleeping giant, but like these players have grown up and they're in their 20s and they don't remember the 90s. They weren't here. They remember the Knicks being crap and having one or two good years with Melo. Like that's what they know. They don't know the perennial powerhouse and what kind of a basketball obsessed city that New York is. And Giannis, through leaks and rumors, has said that the fans outside of the arena has made him make it feel like a soccer field and something that he's interested in playing for. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah. If we've discussed this a lot, and I don't think that would be the sole reason that he wants to go to New York. Right. I think that would be kind of like the cherry on top. Where he sees that and it's like, oh, this is really cool. I want to be embraced by that. I don't think it's strictly, hey, I saw the fans dancing in the street. When I watched the Miami Heat game, they don't do that. And that was it's probably part of it, and he probably thinks it's cool. I don't disagree with that. And he probably likes that idea. You and I have gone back and forth a lot on this. I do believe that if the Knicks did not trade for Mikal last year, that Giannis would already be in New York. I firmly believe that because of all the 5 assets, including the Bucks' own pick that was swapped over. And this summer, it made it extremely more complicated. To make a deal, to get a deal done now, the Knicks are going to have to go 2 routes. Either they're going to gut their team, which they would have to do. Like I know you had sent me something about OG, Mitch, Deuce. Like that is gutting their team a little bit, right? I'm not saying it's not the right answer. I'm not saying but you got to go that route where you're really just putting it on a very star-based, and then obviously your bench is not nearly as strong. Or, right. You get that third team involved or a fourth team involved, and you figure out how to move Karl Anthony Towns over to another team, and then a multitude of draft picks going back to Milwaukee so they can essentially hit the restart button. We're in a phase right now where there's no rush to make a trade. The Knicks are going to win basketball games. They're going to be right up there as a top 2 seed, right? 3 seed. They're inevitably going to fall wherever they are without him. And for Giannis, it's about his camp now and the Bucks really trying to figure something out. And I firmly believe they just have to take their time. There's no need to rush this because this is a trade that completely changes the trajectory of the entire franchise. And it also then starts to steamroll other trades. Like you're not trading Giannis. If you're trading Giannis and getting a bajillion draft picks back from a third team, you're not keeping Kyle Kuzma. You're trading Kyle Kuzma. There's just no point. And then it has to reflect the rest of it. I do believe Giannis is done, and he's probably played his last days. You said this before, and I wasn't as much of a believer on it, but now as time has passed, for some reason in my head, I'm like, maybe he did fake that injury a little bit to give himself this kind of time.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of 50-50 with the Knicks. Like if he really wants to be there and the Bucks give in, they'll figure out a way. But the Bucks have to be very strategic with what they do. They can't overreact and make a trade that will destroy their franchise for years. They have to recoup and get better. I think personally, if I'm a Bucks fan, I'd rather get a ton of draft assets back as opposed to OG Anunoby and Mitch Robinson and Deuce McBride. Like, what does that do? I mean, you're just going to be, you're not going to be good. You're not going to be good enough. I think you got good players in return, but we talk about Mitch on the Knicks side. You're like, if he stays healthy in the playoffs, like that guy's never healthy. But what does he do for the Bucks? He does nothing. They have Miles Turner and Mitch. Like, doesn't make sense to me. OG's a good player, but he can't lead your team. You got to get a ton of young assets back, and I hope that the Bucks and Giannis are just more willing to look at other teams out there because there's trade packages that they could probably get more from than the Knicks right now as currently constituted.
Oh, for sure, they can get more somewhere else, but honestly, it doesn't matter. If Giannis wants the Knicks, he's going to go to the Knicks. And that's what I've been saying throughout this process as well, because, superstars at that level, this isn't, somebody commented on one of my posts and said, but Dame wanted Miami and he didn't get Miami. Well, Dame is not Giannis. You know what I mean? Giannis is like Kevin Durant. When Kevin Durant wants to go somewhere, he goes somewhere. When Kyrie Irving wants to go somewhere, he goes somewhere. There's levels to this. You know what I mean? I think Dame and Kyrie might be at similar levels, but Giannis and Kevin Durant are on a LeBron level. You know what I mean? They're some of the greatest players of all time, not like greatest of this era, like of all time. And it's just going to happen that it whenever he wants to, wherever he wants to go, it's going to happen because, you say like the Bucks shouldn't rush this, the Knicks shouldn't rush this because they don't really need Giannis to be a contender. They're already a contender. They are already a team that could go to the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe go to the finals, and you see what happens. The Thunder look unstoppable right now, and they are, but so no one's beating them. You would think you need Giannis to beat them, but see what happens. Get through the playoffs. Let's see. The Knicks can easily play that game, or even if they don't believe it, they can play that card and be like, all right, well then forget it. And then you know what I mean, make the Bucks pressured, and then they have to give them up because Giannis, players at that level don't have a no trade clause, but they have a no trade clause because you don't want, if let's say you're, Memphis and you have a great deal in place to get Giannis, but Giannis doesn't want to go there. You're not going to trade for Giannis. And then you're going to have the disgruntled, superstar on your team. Like, why would you want that? You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Well, I would disagree with you on one front that the Knicks aren't in a rush per se. If you're going to gut your roster to get him there, I'd want as much time as possible to have him in the lineup because you've seen with these things where you make a trade and then guys aren't acclimated right away and it takes time, right? Like,
well, the Knicks with Melo took them 2 years.
Right. And they're great. Yeah. I'm not saying you don't do that, but if you're going to, for example, lose Mitch Robinson, lose OG Anunoby, lose Deuce McBride, lose all other draft picks go, or it's whatever it is, like, Giannis and Brunson are two brilliant players and they'll be great. I think
but they still need time. You're saying,
but then to go into a series versus the Thunder, like let's even say they get to the finals, and they're a machine right now, and health, not looking at health, and everybody's healthy. It's hard to see anybody beating them just because of how great they're playing. I mean, obviously, things change in the playoffs, and there's reactions to the regular season. And it's never what you think's going to happen, right? The Pacers made the finals, and we're the 5 seed or whatever. But I would think they would need as much time as possible. I think, Alex, if I would agree with you, if he wants to be on the Knicks, if that's like, hey, get me there, it will happen. Yeah, this is when a guy like that says, hey, I want to be there, they will make it happen. But what I'm saying is the Bucks can't rush it They got to take their time and get the right deal done. And then if there's no trade to be traded, like I said last week, you're stuck, man. Too bad. I've done it with the Harden deal for Simmons, and it set the Nets back years, and they're finally climbing out of it a little bit, where they're like in the rebuild, and you can feel like, oh, okay, we got something going here a little bit. But that trade just destroyed them. So you just can't do something like that.
Yeah, and the gutting the roster trade is like keeping Towns. So you would that's the idea. And I was texting you the other day or yesterday about that, where it was Carmelo Anthony on 7 p.m. in Brooklyn on his podcast said that I want to keep Towns. Basically, he wants Towns, Giannis, and Brunson, and then maybe Josh Hart also. You hold on to him as well because he's like the glue guy that you need, and then let everybody else go. And trade everybody else like OG, Mikal, Deuce, this guy, Mitch, everybody, whoever. And then you got Jordan Clarkson, who you can't trade. And, then now you have like 3 legitimate superstars in the NBA in Towns, Brunson, and Giannis. And now you have a squad. But then, Melo's, might be a little bit into old school thinking where it's like you don't need just the big 3. You need a team, to win nowadays. It's not like the Heat where LeBron is one of the greatest players of all, like the second or first best player of all time. Like, I'm saying, like, it's different. Yeah. But and Dwayne Wade was amazing too. Like, don't have to explain that. But so I don't know if I agree with him completely. I think the best way for the Knicks to get Giannis with a seamless transition would be to give up like Towns and Mikal once you can trade him, or and then just go. You know what I mean? And then you lose Mikal, which sucks, but then you move Deuce into the starting lineup or Clarkson into the starting lineup, and you just roll. You know what I'm saying? And obviously that's might not be possible given the Bucks' feelings, but the Bucks' feelings might be irrelevant, like we've been saying. So it's just a matter of, Leon Rose is really going to show us how he got to become the head of CAA right now. His negotiating tactics and his negotiating skills. And James Dolan, I also said this in my post on @NickCentral on Twitter that I put out yesterday, that James Dolan said over the last 10, 15 years that he learned a major lesson from the Carmelo Anthony sweepstakes, the melodrama, not to get involved, excuse me. How Donnie Walsh had the negotiations. Let me start over. It's 6 a.m. Like we said, Kevin Keys comment, dude, it's 6 a.m. I know it's 6 a.m. So I'm fucking up. But Donnie Walsh said he had this negotiations under control with the Nuggets. It's going back and forth. It's a week before the deadline. The Nets start getting involved. They're, coming to Brooklyn and they're throwing their hat in the ring, and Melo wants to come to New York. Well, he can still if he goes to Brooklyn, et cetera, et cetera. Dolan gets nervous and he, pushes fast forward and forces the deal. And Knicks end up giving up too many draft picks, giving up younger players and more players than they had to. And if they waited a week, maybe they could have gotten something a little better. And Melo said he wanted the Knicks. You know what I mean? Giannis is saying the same thing, but without saying it. At least Melo came out and said he wants New York. You know what I mean? And, so it's a little different. But what I'm saying, the point is that it's going to happen. The Knicks just can't rush this. And Leon Rose, let's see what you got.
Yeah, we'll see if does Giannis want to go somewhere else? I think if he's open to it, changes the whole dynamic of it. And then that does change the negotiation part. Or if Leon Rose even wants to get involved, if Giannis opens up his trade landscape with teams like a Miami, trying to think other teams out there, maybe in the West, whatever it is, the Sixers, I don't know. I'm just making teams up. But if he opens up his trade market, then it's one thing like for Leon Rose to make a deal. If it's only the Knicks and Bucks, it's a little different from the leverage he has. Right. If he's then, fighting off other teams and the Bucks are making a call and they say, hey, Sixers have a deal on the table here. This is what we're willing to do is do counter. Right. That's a little, I don't know exactly how this stuff happens, but it's a little, I would imagine if you're negotiating and the power changes if Leon Rose knows, hey, he wants to come here, you're having different kind of conversations. But also, like I said, the Bucks say, hey, we'll do it, but you got to figure out how you get us draft picks. And Leon Rose has to go figure that out.
Yeah.
A couple comments here about the Nets. Let's bring these in. I thought it'd be interesting to show. So appreciate everybody interacting. The reason I like this is from Range Rove 90. The reason I like Cam Thomas is because he can get his own shots in isolation, like Murray, who won me a ring. I guess he's a Denver fan, and I find some of the strength of his game comparable to MPJ. I think MPJ is a ton better than Cam Thomas. I think what's interesting is if you look at Jordy Fernandez and everything he has done with the development of guys, I think he's a fantastic coach. He's gotten Nick Claxton to play an all-time level. He got Cam Johnson to play at an all-time level. He got Mikal to play at an all-time level. Like, these guys were playing out of their minds for him, and he's doing the same thing for Michael Porter Jr. Why couldn't he do it for Cam Thomas? And that to me is interesting. Like, why there was no development from him there, and he hasn't been as bad as like Jacques Vaughn or anything like that. But that to me is kind of like a sign that, hey, he is who he is. He's an amazing scorer. He's an amazing shot creator, but he doesn't do enough on the court that the Nets see a future there. And I think it's just, as I said before, become pretty clear that Cam's not part of that future. But to the MPJ point, like, this is a guy in Denver that was, I didn't watch all the Nuggets games, but he stood around the 3-point line. He was the third option, fourth option behind Aaron Gordon. He took a lot of threes. He wasn't a huge guy that went downhill. He wasn't a passer. He's changed his whole game. I mean, he's doing everything. He is legit doing everything, and he won't be unless the Nets win more games, but he's an all-star. The guy's been incredible. He's winning games left and right for the Nets and has been unstoppable. And I know there's a lot of Net fans that don't want him here for the future because they feel like he doesn't align with their timeline of when they're going to be good or get better. But you got a 27-year-old that's balling out right now. And to me, when those other rookies are 24, 25, he'll be 30 in his prime. Like, to me, that timeline actually works out perfectly. I know the fear now is that you're not going to get the number 3 pick in the draft and he's giving wins away. But to me, I think the timeline actually works out okay. If he was 33, 34, I get it. But he's still only 27. Let him keep getting better. If he's going to have this kind of trajectory, like, let him keep getting better. I know the Knicks were winning games, but it'd be like Jalen Brunson comes from Dallas to New York, starts playing like this all-star, and you trade him because your timeline isn't as good. Like, no, that would have been a huge mistake. I'm all about seeing what MPJ can do. If he's going to be this good and he's developed his game all around like this, I'm all for him. I'm all for him being here as part of the future with the Nets.
And it's good to have a good veteran player around these young kids who are trying to learn how to play NBA basketball, both on the floor and off the floor. I know MPJ might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he at least is a professional and he can ball. And on the floor, Nets players, the young kids like Deumann and Powell, these guys are watching this guy go to work every single day, and it's about consistency in the NBA. Everybody in the NBA is talented. You're in the NBA, the last guy on the bench can give you 50, the regular guy. You know what I'm saying? And he is just showing how it is to be a professional. Consistency is how you become a really good player, and it's never a bad thing to have really good veterans around a lot of kids when you have a lot of kids, a young team. And that's part of what tanked the process, so to speak, turn a phrase, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
And I've changed my whole mindset of it, because you could have the worst record in the league and then end up with the 5th pick in the draft, or you could have a year where you're showing development, guys are getting better, and you get the 7th pick. And I think in the long run, in the long term, I look at these teams that are just lost, like Washington. They've had so many top 3 picks and they suck. Yeah. Like, I don't want that. I don't want to be a team that's continually in the top 3 or 4 picks and can't get it right. Like, it took Detroit forever. And it wasn't because of all these. It was because they finally started to develop guys. I'd rather have the development going than the idea that you can win. That there's not enough that's credit that's given to development of players. That is so key for everything. I mean, maybe Kevin Knox goes to another team when he's drafted and is actually a decent NBA player because of the development and because of how the coaching, like that Knicks regime was horrible. They couldn't figure anything out. But then you got Tibbs in there, and like, look what Tibbs did for Quickly, for Mitch.
Yeah.
Like, these guys became legit NBA players, and Tibbs is a huge reason for that, and the assistants that were on that new Knicks coaching staff. So, it's not all about just lottery hierarchy so you can get the next guy. Development is crucial. That's why I'm like, if you drafted 5 rookies and they're all great, it's not as important the next year. You got to, like, if Danny Wolf becomes a star, go with it.
Like, what's your problem? But also with Quickly, your Quickly point, they not only gave him a coach that can develop where, quickly to help him, they also gave him veterans around him. He had Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker around him on his team. You know what I mean? And Elfrid Payton, who obviously didn't work out, but he's a vet also. Like, you got these guys that he's learning from how to be point guards and professionals, and it's turned him into has a really good contract, and he's the leader of a playoff team in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? And it just didn't work out here because it wasn't a fit because Brunson took off, et cetera, et cetera. So you're right. When guys are there, you need guys to teach them how to be professionals and how to be players, and development is key. Like, it can't be the perfect timeline. It's not a video game. Like, this is life. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we get these top 3 picks. We get this guy. We train them with the development, and we get from a B+ to an A-, and then they'll grow their rating faster. That's not how it works in real life. Like, you have to have a structure around these kids. You know what I mean?
And the other problem is when there's a guy like Victor Wembanyama who is the life-altering, unbelievable. The Spurs won it, and he changes everything. But that happens once every 20, 25 years. The last one before was LeBron. Yeah. And when you have that, yes, the Spurs are set forever. Or if knock on wood with health. With Wemby, they could become the greatest player in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
But that doesn't. You see that once every 50 years.
Yeah.
And so far, so good for Cooper Flagg. But remember, who drafted Cooper Flagg? The Dallas Mavericks, who had a 1.4% chance of winning the lottery. Right. So if you're going to base your whole season on the 5th pick as opposed to the 8th pick, you're going to drive yourself nuts. And it's been as a Net fan now,
you're being miserable.
You're going to be miserable. Like, I'm going to enjoy Nick Claxton getting triple doubles. I'm going to enjoy MPJ going for 35, and I'm going to enjoy the Nets rookies starting to put it together a little bit and winning games for this team in the clutch. I mean, they destroyed the Pelicans, who actually got a win yesterday. I mean, they just manhandled the Pels. I mean, they look like the much better basketball team. If you're a Net fan right now, watching these games is actually exciting. It's fun. It's fun. I'm having, for me on the Knicks perspective, Alex, I think last year for me, I lived and died more with and I think the longer the Knicks are just getting more successful, the less the regular season, like in the very beginning, when they had the COVID year, and the Nets were the better team, obviously, that year with Durant, Kyrie, and Harden. But I was like, I did not like that the Knicks were winning games and became the 4 seed. Then the next year they were bad, and then the year after,
stealing your shine. They were stealing your shine also a little bit. The Nets
a little
shine.
bit, yeah. But I also was like, I just want to win a title, but I didn't want to see them there. But then once the Nets got bad, and I saw this, basically that first year when they traded Durant and Harden, those regular season Knicks wins bothered me. They beat the Cavs in the first round, but the more and more the years have gone on, I just know it's about the playoffs. But this year, even more. Like last year, the Nets were so bad, or not even just wins and losses, just there was nobody to really root for, just based on who was on the roster in the future. And Noah Clowney was hurt, wasn't developing at all. That the Knicks wins annoyed me. Now it's less and less, and it has a lot to do with, one, it's all about the playoffs for them, and two, I actually have something with Brooklyn that I'm excited about, where I can put my energy into watching them. It's just, I forgot what
wrong with that. Nothing
this
wrong
is a
with
fun.
that.
This is a fun time. I was listening to Locked On Nets, and Eric Slater had Tim Capstra on, and he had a quote from Pat Riley, and I forget what it was, but basically, and they're not there yet. But it's like,
but the quote was great. I promise you.
But it's about like you're in this innocence phase where you're like, the wins and losses don't mean this. You're just like in this development bubble where like the Knicks lose games, it's a problem. The Nets, it's just, as a fan, you're just watching this young group come together, and it's a really enjoyable time. I can't, at least for me, I know there's a lot of people that are upset by it, but for me, it's just an enjoyable time. Now I got to find this quote. Totally right up to the climax and blew it, or did not blow it.
There's a quote. I don't know what the quote was. I don't know. I can't even paraphrase it, but Pat Riley had a quote and it was great, just so you know. But honestly, people who are choosing to be miserable about every Nets win when you're a Nets fan, you're just living this life of you can't win. Like Nets win, and it doesn't matter. You're just like setting it up for your own tweets and your own posts later on, where if they don't win the lottery, and then if we won these 3 games in March, if we lost these 3 games in March instead of won them, then we would have had this pick. And yeah, that's might be true, but at the end of the day, it's not a video game. And then when you get this pick, it doesn't mean that now you're going to win a championship. You know what I'm saying? You have to develop the culture, and the Nets are doing that. And, props to them.
I can't, I don't know, maybe because, and I've disassociated myself a little bit more with social media because it's been bothering me, but I am just kind of like in disbelief at how many people I think just hate. Like, you see it, I don't know how to explain it, but like I see it with the Mets too, right? Who had a horrible week from a fan base perspective of losing all of these key members. But people, and this is not new, I think it's just because it's more available on social media. Man, the amount of it's like adults as children are just everywhere. And it is, maybe I'm just different, but just like the attitude people have is crazy to me. Just adults acting like kids, so upset over things and not being rational, I think is at an all-time high that I've seen.
Well, it's okay. I'm an adult that acts like a kid sometimes. I know you're not talking about me, but I'm an adult that acts like a kid sometimes. Like Donovan Mitchell, when the Knicks could have got him and then he ended up, getting traded to Cleveland. I flipped. You know what I mean? Because it's like the Knicks
I don't mean
that,
but
what I'm saying is that like I have that emotional reaction up front, and then I'm able to step back a few days later or a week or a few months later and be like, you know what? Whatever. You know what I'm saying? They're good anyway. Yeah. Still think there's still my opinion. I'm not changing my opinion. I still think they should have traded for him and could have. But at the end of the day, things have worked out. So what am I going to do? Sit here and be miserable forever and be like, root for my opinion, or I'm going to root for the team because I'm a fan and I'm not. And I'm human. That's first and foremost.
I agree with that. And I think the problem, Alex, is I think people then start to root against the individuals running the teams, right, and not root for success because it makes you happy. And I don't know why that is, but I have seen it. And I'm with you there. Like, you're a sports fan. You react to something, you're upset. Right. But then rooting for the demise of the people running the team, and not even because it's about wins and losses anymore. It's about because you just hate that individual. And then when the team starts to have some success, you can't even get behind it because it's the same person that did something you didn't like. I'm just like, isn't it about what's, the front of the jersey? Ultimately, you want to have your team win games. Well, like how could you be upset when things go right?
Well, what it is
I can't understand.
People, it's social media has done this in a way. It's what they can't like. Used to, before social media, or if you're not very active on social media, you might say something stupid to your friends clown you for a minute, but then everybody forgets, or they forgive you, and then you're still like able, now it's like you say something stupid on social media, somebody takes a screenshot of it and then shoves it in your face down the road and be like, well, you said this, so like you don't want that to happen, so then you end up subconsciously rooting for it, and then you dig deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper, and then you start rooting for your opinions more than your team. And that's a problem, and it's a sociological thing. And I brought this up here before. It's called sunk cost fallacy, where the phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. So they keep going in and in and in and in and in right. further on this topic. Is obviously sunk cost fallacy is usually used for like cults, like you're in a cult, not like Indianapolis, like you're in an actual cult, and you end up doing something terrible to somebody that you love because you're in this cult because you've already given up your entire life for this thing, and so you end up doing more and more and more. And why would you ever do that? But it's because you've gone so deep in on this subject, on this topic, on this cult that you're going to keep going. So that's the problem with fandom these days, is that you can't even get clowned by your friends for a little bit and move on, or just like say something to your dad off the cuff, like, like let's say you're watching a game and you're like, oh man, fuck that guy, trade him tomorrow, man, fuck him. And then you're like, you don't really mean that. You're just mad because he dropped a pass. You're mad that he missed that open layup. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really mean let's trade him tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Like, I think Net fans wanted these rookies to not be like, we're rooting for them to fail
because they weren't the guys they wanted in the draft, right?
Right. And now some of them are like, first of all, it's been 25 games and it's been good science, right? It's not perfect, not unbelievable. But you look at some of these guys, you're like, all right, we might have something here. This is kind of fun. But this guy be like, nah, he's not good. I can just tell. It's like he's not good. I mean, it's like everybody's the smartest guy in the room, and it's just
David Stearns is.
It's just frustrating me. Like root for your team to be, even with the Mets.
Yeah,
I gotta like if they don't do anything, and this is how they roll it out, that would be horrible. But if they go out and they reconstruct the roster, and maybe it's better. Like, I gotta be honest, the Mets sucked with Pete here. They weren't very good. I know he carried them up the offensive load, but the team was a bad team. So if they get other guys in here, it might work out better. You could have your frustration and be upset because he left. I get it. He's an all-time Met, and he produced.
You got to move on. Yeah,
but you got to move on. Like, let's see what else they do. Let's see where else they go.
Even if they don't do anything, we're both Mets fans, and I was distraught that they lost Edwin Diaz, and distraught they lost Pete Alonso. I was really angry that they traded Brandon Nimmo for an aging player. You know what I mean? I was like, it's like all this stuff like pissed me off. And yeah, the Mets sucked, but they didn't suck because of those three players. Maybe Nimmo a little bit, but they didn't suck completely because of those three players. It was sucked because they didn't invest in starting pitching. They sucked because they had some injuries. You know what I mean? It is what it is. They didn't hit in scoring position. They didn't, come back in any games, like things like that. But anyway, the point is, like, now I'm at a point like, well, you got these young pitchers. Let's see what they do. They don't get Suarez. He goes to the Braves. It's like, all right, well, now what are we doing? But at the end of the day, come opening day, everybody's still going to be pissed. Even if they don't do anything the rest of this offseason, they just, fill in the gaps with like low-level players, and everybody mocks them for it, et cetera, et cetera. You still have Lindor, you still have Soto, you still have two of the best players in the sport on the team, and the Mets literally can start off 10-2, and then everybody all of a sudden is like, oh, well, maybe like, things worked out, even though they can end up winning 75 games. That's all it takes is one easy run, quick run in the beginning of the season to turn the whole fan base around.
Yeah, I'm starting to believe more and more that people don't root for the teams. They just root for the failure of people behind the scenes because they get so angry. I believe that.
There's a good. There's still a lot of people that root for the team. It's not everybody, but there's definitely a large portion that's growing by the year. It's a social media influence, and the people that grew up in social media or that are just overly obsessed with it and allow it to change their minds have become that way for sure.
Like to your sunk cost fallacy idea, like I have to just be okay with the idea that Mikel's good on the Knicks. Right. He was bad last year, but he's playing better and he's having a really good year. I'm not going to lean into like, oh, well, if you look at the splits, the splits when they were actually, like he actually only had that plus minus in games where I'm making things up.
But the 5 picks,
I could figure it out.
But the 5 picks, he'll never be the 5 picks.
Right? I could figure it out. Right? Like I could come up with these angles if I wanted to.
There's a stat for everything. You can figure it out if you dig deep enough. You can find a hole in anybody.
Better.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna he's playing better. I have to accept it. He's done a really nice job for the Knicks this year.
Yeah.
And he's helping them win basketball games, especially on the defensive end. And he's clearly his shot making is much more improved. He looks more comfortable year number 2 with the Knicks than he did in year number 1. And that just makes sense in a lot of different ways, right? Like, I got to move on from it, man. Like, you can't just sit in there and obsess over it. And he's clearly playing better basketball. So I'm still happy with the trade, right? Like, it opened up for the Nets side of things.
Like my Donovan Mitchell point. Like, I still think the Knicks should have traded for Donovan Mitchell then, but it's worked out. So what am I going to do? Be like, no, Donovan Mitchell. You know what I mean? Yep. I still think that there was an avenue where Brunson and Donovan Mitchell in a backcourt, which is what it was supposed to be. People always made it Brunson or Mitchell. Like, no, it was supposed to be the two of them.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Brunson was here. You know what I'm saying? So it's people conflate and change the story, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, Knicks are awesome. I got pissed off when they traded for OG Anunoby, traded RJ and Emmanuel quickly, like two of my favorite players, two guys that I thought could like let us out of the doldrums and should have been here to see it through. And I was angry and I was pissed and I tweeted about it. And then The Knicks go on this crazy run with OG Anunoby, and I put out a video. I'm like, well, you know what? Guess I was wrong.
And you obviously want to be wrong.
Yeah, and people mock me for it, but I don't care. Like, that's the point. It's like you have to be real enough with yourself to admit defeat, admit to be wrong, or
it's okay.
Say, I was wrong. I love these players. I still will root for them. I'll always root for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly. But at the end of the day, I want the Knicks to win.
I guess if you were unhappy that OG was doing so well and helping and elevating the Knicks and everything that he did,
right?
And was that if you were that unhappy, you'd be rooting for your opinion,
right?
And you would be upset that your opinion lost,
right?
And that to me, I think, is the problem. Like, I would rather my team win over my opinion every time, and it's okay to be upset, and it's okay to not like what an ownership or a team does. But if you were then rooting for your opinion to win, I no longer respect you as a fan. I just can't.
Right. And that's fair. That's fair. So we have another we have a few comments. We'll put one up really quick, and then we'll go to some segments. At Hakeem the Dream 3298 from YouTube, OG with Giannis is a great defensive lineup, and that is. I mean, having those two on the perimeter and underneath, and then if you keep Mitch as well, like, that is insane for defense, and that's why it'd be great to try to get Towns for.
I mean, you'd rather trade Towns than a million. I mean, but you'd rather trade Towns 10 times out of 10. You're getting, I mean, for obvious, he's Giannis, right? Towns is incredibly offensively skilled, but he has shown to be a huge liability in the playoffs in big spots. He did have a great game versus the Pistons in what was it, game 4? I don't remember exactly, where we went on the road and hit some crazy shots to help them win that game. But he disappeared a lot in the playoffs. He's disappeared a lot in the past. And when he is off offensively, he can't be on the court.
He's awful. Yeah. Also,
he looks if
terrible.
Giannis is off offensively, he can dominate the game in so many other ways. That just he's obviously still on the court. He's one of the greatest players in the history of the sport.
And he doesn't even rely on his jump shot because it stinks. So, like, he relies on going to the basket. So he's always going to go to the basket. It's very hard for him to have a bad game, Giannis. And that's why he's one of the best players of all time. He's not a Dame Lillard, But anyway, gun to your head. Let's both do it. Does Giannis get traded to the Knicks, and where does he go? What do you think?
I'd probably lean with the Knicks, but I'm not like, I'm like 51-49.
Knicks,
so away 51 that he gets here. So if there was betting money, I'd bet on them, but I don't think it's 100% a lock. I think as time goes on, if Giannis opens up more and more, because it's just more and more uncomfortable being there, I wouldn't be shocked if like, to me, I'm in this horrible position. Like, just get me out of here. And I think he's his favorites. I'm pure guessing here. He'd prefer the Knicks, but at the same time, it doesn't mean he's against other destinations. So I think if it's something that's just not workable, he give more flexibility to another team that he can go to.
Right. I think 90% he's a Knick, and I think 10% he could be a Spur. I think the Spurs have the young players and the picks to entice the Bucks, and then you can sell Giannis on playing with Wemby, and then that would be insane.
It's a great market too for basketball. They love their Spurs. It's a great market for basketball.
But you want to leave Milwaukee, the small market, to go to another small market? You're trying to get to the big market. But when you get to that level of Giannis, Durant, LeBron, the market doesn't matter. You're that popular already. It doesn't matter where you are. The people are going to follow you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And if you get to the Spurs, do you win a championship with Wemby and Giannis? I mean, it'll be incredible. But you also have the Thunder in that conference. You know what I mean? So
it's easier in the East. It is easier in the East.
It is.
Like, the East is just so bad.
Right.
And you look at the East standings, I would essentially say,
let's see,
every team after Detroit and New York are all the same. Like, just because you're the 4 seed or the 9th, I mean, maybe not at the very bottom. Like, the Bucks are 11 and 15 or whatever, but the Celtics at 15 and 10 or 15 and 11, like, they could lose to the Hawks. I would, like, if it was a 3-6 and it was all these teams. I do think the best team there is Orlando. When fully healthy, they're the 3rd best team in the East.
All right. Well, you see, Jason Tatum is rolling, man. He might be back soon, but like, doctors are saying like he's going to come back, which is crazy. And they're 15-10, the 3 seed, tied with the Magic right now.
Well, that changes the dynamic. I did not see that. I mean, if Tatum comes back and he's Jason Tatum,
yeah, I mean,
Celtics are a little scary.
Honestly, we're not doctors, you know what I mean? Obviously, and people go, "You're not a doctor." Well, you're not a fucking doctor either. All I know is that Achilles injuries, you usually need to miss a season. If you come back sooner, you might pop it again. You know what I mean? Yeah. I have people I know in real life, not athletes, obviously, have had Achilles and they come back too soon and they fall down and they pop it again. It happens. It's just life. Like that's just what goes on. And Tatum playing a basketball at pro level it's not wise. But you know what? He's gonna do what he's gonna do. So it is what it is.
That would be. I honestly think, let's just say hypothetically he came back in March,
which would make more sense. Yes.
I just don't see. Well, first of all, I don't think the Celtics have the roster that they did last year. I think that the Pistons and the Knicks are clearly the best 2 teams in the East from just watching them play basketball. The Cavs have become a mess. Like the Cavs have become a mess.
So close though, but like the 9th seed is 5.5 games out of the 1 seed. You know what I mean? So the East is so close. It's still so early in the season.
It's also only a quarter of the season, so that's going to happen. But look at the Nets, 2 games out of the loss column for the day.
Hey, Nets are rolling 6-17.
But the Bucks are. I mean, they beat the Celtics. The Nets have wins versus. The Nets have some good road wins, so it's like maybe my view is skewed. Like I saw the Nets go into Boston and win, so I just like can't take them seriously.
Yeah,
even though the Nets are playing better, it's like I just can't.
And they crushed the Celtics. Also, they beat them by like a lot. It was an easy.
Yeah, game, they cut it to 2 in the 4th, and the Nets pushed it back to double digits. But they had control of that game the whole second half, and that was before Danny Wolf was there, before Ben Saroff was back, right?
Well, yeah, which leads me into our last segment on Bad Weather Fans. So like and subscribe everywhere. You can see this podcast and Knicks and Nets podcast, the only Knicks and Nets podcast. We had great guests on here like Kerry Kittles, Richard Jefferson, Ian Eagle. We're on our test. Name another one. Connor Hughes. Who was the other one? What's another?
Channing Frye.
Channing Frye. Yes, another big one. We've had so many. So Mike, out of the 5 rookies that the Nets have on their squad right now, who is the best or has the highest stock right now?
I think it's Danny Wolf. I really do. I mean,
that's the first time for Danny Wolf, right?
Yeah,
first time.
It was the first time he started playing.
True. That's very true.
He has shown flashes of being a complete basketball player. He's also 2 years older than all the other rookies. Mm-hmm. And I think that does make a difference when you're 19 and you're playing in NBA games as opposed to 21. I think there is a huge difference there early. But right now I think, Danny Wolf has in his limited amount of time on the court has been the best Brooklyn Net rookie.
Yeah, and that's fair to say. Can't argue with that. I really can't, but whatever. I'm just happy as a Knicks fan because we're rolling. Knicks are 2 games out of the 1 seed. Could get Giannis on a discount. Like, there's not a lot to be upset about right now as a Knicks fan, honestly. I mean, Deuce McBride's hurt. That sucks.
Well, season's going to happen. Stuff's going to happen in the course of a season. You're not going to go 82.
Mag. Yeah,
usually it doesn't happen. I mean, the Thunder are putting
Thunder could go 80-1. You saw 80-2. I'm sorry. You saw Kendrick Perkins says the Thunder are going to win 80 games. I'll set it. I'll set it. Like, okay, bro. They could win 75, but they're not going to win 80 games.
They could win 75 and then lose in the playoffs. Right. This is a very different. It's not Michael Jordan's NBA.
No,
I don't feel. I don't. Anything is possible in these playoffs, and I think. From a league perspective, it's wide open. Right. Even though the Thunder are like that, I don't have the same feeling I did, at least as a kid. Maybe because I was a kid, but I was like, Jordan's going to win the finals. Like, it's just going to happen.
Well, it was also he had won like 4 or 5 times. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, right,
that's true. Like, I'm looking at it from that lens. That's fair.
When this is number early three-peat, we were like little kids. We were like early elementary school. You know what I mean? I don't remember I just remember him winning. But go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, I guess that's a good point because this will be the Thunder, back to back, and then maybe you go into next year and they're 25-3 and they've won 2 straight titles. You're going, okay, this is the team. They've built it, and they still have all these picks possible. I mean, they are just like
they can get Giannis. They can get Giannis.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Don't mess up.
It would be silly.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
you can't. You're like, oh, you can't do that.
It's not like
it'd be like having prime Brady.
Yeah, no, I know.
It'd be like having prime Brady and then being like, let's get Mahomes here, and maybe he's slightly but we could disrupt the whole thing.
Let's switch off quarterbacks per quarter.
Which is not
kind of yeah, no, I get it.
But, all right, it's been Bad Weather Fans, episode 291. Like and subscribe. We appreciate everybody that's been watching on YouTube. Thank you to that. I know it's early in the morning, getting you ready for your Friday weekend. Nets have a game tonight in Dallas versus the Mavericks. Really excited to watch Cooper Flag play. And then the Knicks Saturday night versus the Orlando Magic. We didn't talk about the Cup once until just now. We're not going to. But this game does matter for wins and losses. So another good test for the Knicks.
Am I allowed to
be a nice test?
Can I say one thing before you end it? Am I allowed to be like okay with them losing this next game versus the Magic so they don't have to play that championship game? Like if they lose, it's like, all right, well, at least we don't have this fake game. You know, I want to shut Magic fans up on Twitter. They've been kind of loud, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, if they lose, I'm gonna be happy if they don't have to play this random game that doesn't count. You know what I'm saying? That gets millionaires more money. You know what I mean? What does that do for me? You know what I mean? It's just, we're trying to win a championship this year. I think I don't know.
At that point, that might be the one time. I don't know. I'd have to be in the moment to truly answer the question.
Yeah.
But if it's a meaningless win-loss game and they would have to put a banner up that says they won the cup, there might be part of me that roots for the Knicks to win that game just to have that. Because, like I said, it doesn't affect the win-loss.
Just to get the memes and the jokes and the whole thing. Yeah,
it's an all-timer.
That's for the Nets fan, the Knicks fan coalition that you guys have with Evan Roberts. I think that would be.
That would be
a big moment for you guys.
I don't know. Like I said, I'd have to be in the moment. Like if I'm watching, that would be the one Thunder loss that doesn't even count.
Right.
I'd have to be in the moment to truly answer it, or I might just hate him so much I still want to see him lose.
Yeah.
But at least it would be fun to see them win a game that doesn't mean anything in the standings, but they'd have to put that banner up. Like, do they put the banner up the next year? Like, how does that work?
I don't know.
It would be awesome if they win the cup, then the Knicks fail in the playoffs, and then opening night regular season, the next day they have to unveil this thing. I mean, would be I'm sure it's this moment.
Year, but just don't get me wrong, people listening or who will listen to this later or watch it later or whatever. I don't want the Knicks to lose. I just think that if they happen to lose, because they're not going to win every game, you're not Kendrick Perkins and the Thunder, they're going to lose games. If they happen to lose a game and it happens to be this one versus the Magic and they don't play an exhibition game after that, I won't be upset. I'll be kind of relieved, to be honest. It's a weird place to be. And that's what the Cup has done to me as a fan. So
understood.
At least they can make this game mean something on the standings. Like, give me, if you win, you get an extra win in the standings. At least give me that. Like, you lose, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, you can't
win,
do
you
that,
get an extra win.
Because then you're gonna screw up. Because then it's like you're gonna fuck up the standings. It's gonna you can't have one team with one more game.
You're fucking up the standings now. You're playing the Magic 5 times instead of 4.
But at least you're at 80,
you're fucking the standings up.
But you're at least in the 82 games. If you're gonna give teams extra games, and then it's like there's these weird ties. It's just you're gonna make some math. That's
gotta mean something.
Screw up. I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. They have to figure out a way so that they get to 82 games.
It's not going to end.
I don't know.
God forbid a player gets a season-ending injury and tears an ACL or pops an Achilles in this stupid-ass game, and then everybody's going to flip. And it's got to be somebody big. Yeah. It's got to be SGA. It's got to be somebody like that. Like, I don't want that to happen. I'm just saying.
If Brunson somebody goes into that game and is out for the year.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of
like
anger.
If it's Banchero, that would suck, but like it's not going to kill the NBA if it's Banchero. It's got to be like an SGA
kill the Magic.
Or God forbid, a player on the Knicks that I don't want to mention to put it out in the atmosphere.
No, you don't want that. You don't. That's bad luck for the league. All right, Bad Weather Fans, episode 291.
Wow.
And have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to y'all later.
See ya.
End stream. One miss.